Afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Crime Time. I'm Sabrina Matinani. Thanks for starting your day the KUAM way. We are here at CS in Agana. Big shout out to our friend Malcolm Manabusan for allowing us to use his location for today's interview. We are talking today about drug addiction and the major drug problem that we have on Guam, but at the same time providing hope to people. We are speaking with Jess Mendiola.
Yes.
He is a recovering drug addict.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us. And of
You're
course,
welcome.
the police spokesperson, Paul Tapau.
Afternoon. Thanks for having us, Mel. Thank you so much for opening up your home to us and allowing us to be here to discuss a very serious topic. And I think this is a topic that the entire community needs to vet themselves with, to understand where we are and what we can do to help address this serious problem of addiction and the battles that we not only face as a police officer but throughout the community. So thank you again for highlighting this and showcasing this to the entire island of Guam.
You know, and we read a story last night. Chris Barnett, he had interviewed the governor on the drug problem on Guam, and it was actually in her State of the Island address several months ago, where she had mentioned that the drug problem on Guam was catastrophic. And so, since we do have you, Jess, with us, how would you describe the drug problem on Guam?
The drug problem on Guam is an epidemic that's been going on for the last, since the late 80s, early 90s. As far as meth is concerned, I believe that if we educate the youth, we bottleneck it and cut it off and right at where the youth is at, then we can make a significant difference. From then on, we can actually focus on those that are in active addiction. Maybe simultaneously we can, but the education has to start with the youth. I also, like I said earlier, I believe in the nature versus nurture thing. The environment in which you come from is a big indication in where you will head, where you will be headed. We are what we eat. If you're eating unhealthy, obviously you're gonna, project an unhealthy image. But if you're living and eating in a healthy environment, and when I mean eating, I'm saying those that are around you are going to help contribute to your growth. So the environment that you're in plays a significant part. It plays a significant part in your development, your growth, and your overall will and desire to want to do better in your life.
Well, you said, the environment and where you come from. So take me back to that space and that environment that led you on this path to recovery. How did your story all begin?
I started using meth in 1994 through a family member of mine who was actually a customs officer at that time. He has since then lost his job, right? And from that point on, I battled with my addiction, not on and off, on, for the duration of 20 plus years. I would have my downspouts where I would take 2 to 3 months to recoup, sleep, and then hit the streets once again.
What drug are we talking about?
Meth. My drug of choice was methamphetamine. Weed was never my drug of choice. Cocaine also was a drug of choice of mine if it was available here on Guam. But when I moved to the States is when I dabbled in cocaine more. But meth was my drug of choice here on Guam, as it is with 80% of the island residents. But 1994 is when I started, and then even through the birth of my children, that wasn't powerful. The birth of my kids was not even powerful enough to pull me away from the drugs. The threat of losing my family wasn't even powerful enough to pull me away from the drugs. I've lost several good jobs because of my drug use. It wasn't until I've gotten arrested for a litany of crimes, from robbery, assault, stalking, theft of property, possession with intent, and none of those crimes made me want to quit. Getting caught did not make me want to quit. It did not make me stop. And while I was locked up in federal prison, it wasn't until I went to federal prison where I asked myself, what am I doing with my life? The words I told my father and mother before I left was, wait for me. Because I'm the only son in a family of 4. I got 3 older sisters. So, my dad said, I don't know, boy, if God calls me, God's gonna call me. While I was locked up, God called him. That was the catalyst That was the turning point that told myself, you know what, I failed my father in life. I refuse to fail him in death. So while I was incarcerated, I started to train my mind and lay the foundation for the groundwork so that when I'm released, I'm not coming out to unknown variables. I've already set myself up to where I can start my path walking and live and continue on that righteous path. In doing so, 9 months before I got out, I contacted my former employer. And I told him that I'll be getting out. I'm sorry for the past. Could I possibly have my job back? And he said, call me when you get out. Every 3 months, I maintained contact with him to ensure that I had something lined up. Because the mistake a lot of inmates make is they come out into society with no plan. They have dreams while they're locked up. They formulate all these thoughts and plans in their head while they're locked up, but they don't take the necessary steps and actions to put those plans in motion. Just because you're behind bars doesn't mean you cannot be resourceful and utilize your resources, so when you do get out, you're not coming out to nothing, you're coming out to something. But then there are those who really do not have anything. I've been incarcerated with people who get no visits from family members, who get no money in their books whatsoever, and it's those individuals that when they come out, they are the ones that need just as much help as those that do come out to family support.
Yeah.
Those are the individuals that really need really need guidance. For me, as an addict, personally speaking, I was still an infant learning how to walk while I began my recovery.
How long have you been clean?
I've been clean going on 4 years. I've been out 2.5 years, locked up 3 years, which tells you that I was still using drugs while I was incarcerated.
While you were incarcerated?
While I was incarcerated. So, but all I was doing was trying to escape my demons. A person's true strength comes when they're isolated. Because it's not the physical battles that you face, it's the mental battles. If you can tame that mental demon that you have, then you can accomplish anything. I have no problem whatsoever doing things on my own, solely for myself, because I've pulled myself out of this hole time and time again. This time, while I'm up in the hole, I'm extending my hand downward to help those that want to climb out that hole.
And I want to commend Jess here, and I want to let Jess know that Jess is my second cousin, and we are a very tight-knit family where we stayed, we grew up, and that was part of our culture, growing up in that era. And prior to me becoming a police officer, I was a part of that culture too. And as I progress to my life now, I look back at everything that was done and everything that was going on within our culture. The one thing that I remember, and I want to comment on what Jess said, was that he felt his dad in life, but he's not going to feel his dad through death. His dad, when he retired as a federal firefighter, very decorated officer, a captain in ARF, would frequent my home because he knew what I was doing as a police officer, and he knew the connection we had as family members. And it was bittersweet knowing that he reached out to me asking if I can help him when he got out. And I told his dad, I said, Uncle Joe, he has to be the one to seek the help.
Yes.
And I tell that to all my family members who are suffering through addiction. The only way that you can gain help is through yourself. And it was very sad attending his funeral and understanding that what the family was going through. But these are the struggles and the challenges that I believe helped mold him into the person he is now. See, I've learned as a police officer and as life experience that what we did in the past, we learn from it and we grow. And I guess what happened to him, by him making that statement that he's not gonna fail his dad in death, I think it really speaks volumes of who he is now. And when he first came out, he approached me. I was exercising up and down the hill, and I was like, okay, I'm never leery of any individual, especially if it's family members. But I looked into his eyes and I saw he was genuine. He understood what he had to do, and the path of just him coming out and being courageous enough to share his life story to the community, I think it's really speaks volumes of where we are now with the battle of crystal methamphetamine and how it's taking its toll on the family. I mean, this is rooted. This is rooted. I'm rooted in this too because I'm a part of his family. I was a part of that culture. But I grew and I learned, and he's continuing to grow and learn. And he's being, he's seeing life now from a very different perspective. And when he said that he's reaching down and sticking that hand into the hole, that's a sign of gesture that he's willing to help those who are suffering to addiction.
How supportive has your family been?
Oh, my family has never given up on me. Being the baby brother, the only brother, 3 sisters, my mom. Let me state, those in active addiction, I failed to realize my family were suffering worse than I was.
Yeah.
It was.
Because it's like they were helpless. They didn't know what to do. They're hurting inside, crying. Why is my brother, why is my son continuing to do? I was raised in a great family. I'm a product of private school education, and I just made an egregious mistake. But that mistake led me to where I'm at today. There's a saying that I coined when I was incarcerated that the past has already been written. The sequel, which my incarceration is what I was currently living. The trilogy is my second coming, and this is my second coming. And this is going to be a blockbuster of monumental proportions that I cannot wait to see, that I cannot wait to share. But because it is through one's journey that you can light the light in someone else's darkness and help them find themselves along the way. It's like I'll use an analogy like a construction site. In a construction site, you have the blueprint. And then under that blueprint, you have the contractor that is responsible for building whatever it is, building you're going to build. You have the workers. God is the architect. I have the blueprint to his design.
Yeah.
Who I choose within my life are the people that's going to help lay those blocks that will help me create a structure with a solid foundation and a solid place to live in, where peace, happiness, and love can be forged. That's the way I see it. If you do not have a solid support network like your family, it's going to be all that much more difficult, which is there are other outlets to receive support. There are self-help groups. There's recovery centers that will help you. If you're lacking in support, you can then go to those recovery centers or those self-help groups, and they will provide you with that support. Because the self-help groups and the recovery centers I went to, they gave me the tools that were necessary to succeed in my recovery. However, what good is a bag of tools if I don't know how to use the tools? And the reason why I never knew how to use the tools is because I never opened that bag. I was equipped with everything I needed in my recovery, from my treatment that I got from New Beginnings and the all-male facility, and as well as the support groups, but I never opened that bag because I was fearful of one thing. I was fearful of change. Yeah. I did not know what was waiting for me on the other side of that port. Right now I have set sail on the 7 seas, and I'm enjoying this view. Now, if I see a struggling individual waving at another, somewhere along the way, I will dock in their port, and I will offer my help to that person. Yeah. Social media I have used as a platform to inspire people to the best I can, to share my story. I try to keep it real, I try to keep it raw, and I'm not gonna lie. I'm not going to baby you. If you are an addict, I'm gonna tell you what it is you need to do. I will give you the empathy that you deserve, but I will not give you the pity that you want.
That's important, Him being in this journey really, I guess, embedded myself into it again. And understanding that the calling, I guess I want to call it the calling, if I may. We've had the discussion about drugs going rampant. And I can honestly say that the past 4 weeks, I had this something going on in my head about what are we going to do? What can we do collectively to address these issues? And the first part is really addressing the issue that we have and understanding where we need to go as an island to heal, because we all need to heal from this. We all do. And I prayed on it. I really did. I prayed on it, and I asked for spiritual guidance into giving me the direction. And it's funny how fate really lines everything up.
Yes.
Who would have thought? I met him at the supermarket last week, and his last words was, "Primo, use me as your vehicle. Use me as a vehicle, as a voice for the community." Because when I wear this uniform, people that know me now, there's a disconnect. But people who knew me before, there's a connection, and that's how I know how, the game's the same. It's just the players who have changed. The game still remains the same in the drug world, but the players have changed. I have changed. But understanding that there's a connection that needs to be made, and when we parted at the supermarket, he used me as a vehicle. And when he was at the Neighborhood Watch Summit, there was this confusion about drugs and what's going on coming from constituents.
Yes.
He had the courage to stand up in front of dignitary leaders of this island to give a spill about his addiction and his demons. And I think by understanding that, you're not deflecting the fact that you were suffering through addiction and now you're coming through this recovery phase. And I think it's beautiful. I really do. Because, this journey that I guess I'm going into right now, it's really how we're going to address it. And it's funny how everything is falling into line and how we're having this conversation and we're establishing this dialogue, because this really does need to be addressed at the forefront. And the little impact that he makes a big mark in the community.
I want to ask though, you were talking about the bag of tools, right?
Yeah.
But what if there's no more bags of tools to give out? And I say that because we all know on Guam, we're so small.
Yeah.
And you have the Lighthouse Recovery Center, you have the Guam Behavioral Wellness Center. We just don't, to me, it seems like we don't have enough of those sorts of facilities to accommodate the
overwhelming numbers
of drug addicts on Guam. And so where do these people go? What hope do they
See,
have?
there
How
are
can
an
they
over
rebuild their lives?
I apologize for cutting you off.
No.
There are an overwhelming number of drug addicts on Guam. However, not everybody wants to seek treatment. So the treatment will be there, readily available for those who desire change. Now, I'm hoping that my voice, my credibility would extend to those who are still conflicted between being half-stepping in the door and half-stepping out the door. So I want to be that voice, that little nudge that can tell them, okay, go full into the door, because it's there for you. Now, you're right. If more and more people decide that treatment, that turning over a new leaf is something that they want, then we would have to increase it will only be logical to increase the number of facilities that are made available to them. However, if more voices are heard, then those voices are an extension per se of those facilities that will hold them off temporarily until there is an available space or until there's openings in the facility or the resource centers where they want to go. So I will continue to provide that guidance, keeping them on the right track. Don't worry, Telu, it's going to work. It's going to work out. Just stay positive. The power of positive thinking, oh my God, is just beyond belief. What you think, you will definitely will into existence. I never wake up a day thinking negative. You can't do that.
Yeah.
You cannot. Negativity is like an infection that will spread throughout your whole being, and it will give birth to other infections to those around you. So you got to maintain that positivity. You got to look at things through life and find a meaning in it.
Yeah. If I may, we understand the challenges that are there, coupled with the issues that we're facing, and the availability of the resources. But he hit it spot on, when pretty much on the head, when he said it has to be an individual choice.
Right.
Yes.
Recovery starts with the person wanting to bring change, and deflecting. It's really, they got to understand that when you deflect, that it's everybody else's problem but my problem. It starts with that individual understanding where you are and what had happened, whether it be to getting arrested and getting incarcerated, the isolation that you are, the separation that you have from the circle that you run around with, from the culture that you're exposed to. This starts with you as an individual. I used to say this all the time. If you find God, whether incarceration, continue to bring God with you, but leave what had brought you into incarceration, but bring God with you, because that's the sense of positive. That's hope. That's belief. That's spiritual guidance and structure. But the individual has to make that choice. And if you break away from the deflecting portion of your battles and everything, and you realize and you come to terms and you put yourself as an open book and you do your own dissecting, what do I do now? What's my first step? One thing that I did with one person who was battling addiction was I put 3 goals in front of them. And I told them, these should be your top 3 priorities, whether it be your kids, whether it be building that relationship back with your family, or whether it be that connection with God. And we have a different view on spirituality, but I firmly believe, and I strongly believe, that God really is, it's a mystery, and how people get guided towards that. I have fellowship. I had fellowship with clients who were suffering to addiction for over 30 years. Heroin, crystal methamphetamine, and back to heroin. That's pretty much rock bottom for them. Mm-hmm. But this type of fellowship was guided through faith. And I told him, I said, hey, Cello, if this is the vehicle that moves you in that right direction, continue to lean on God, continue to lean on your family, continue to lean on your support mechanism. Like what he said, the family never abandoned him. Mm-hmm. The family is important. It's an important pillar towards your road to recovery, but it starts with the individual. I'm not an expert in it, but speaking on experience and through professional experience of myself, it really is. You and the individual have to make that decision.
What are your top 3 priorities?
My top 3 priorities is just to enjoy my blessings and make my blessings count. I live day by day. I put God first, obviously. God and my faith is first and foremost.
Amen.
Everything I do, every decision I make, I pray on it.
Amen.
Be it 1 minute, be it 30 seconds, I pray on it, and I don't react instinctively. I give it time and wait for him to speak to me through either someone or another situation. And secondly, my family. My family support. Let me share. I went 8 years without my kids. I missed their graduation, their confirmation. I missed birthdays. I missed the birth of my grandkids. One of my grandkids, I was there for the other 2. And when I got my son back and my daughter back, my son, he was more so affected of my absence than anything. And he told me, he said, Dad, you got me back now. Just don't get high.
That's deep.
I learned more from my 18-year-old son in the few months I got out than I did in the 3 years I was locked up. It's amazing how much you can learn from your children because of the pain you caused them and the significant impact they'll make on your life once you are no longer living that pipe dream.
Yeah.
Once you put down that pipe and the smoke is cleared, you can see the view. And that view ahead is the view of your loved ones, still there, haven't abandoned you. Because once the drugs and the money is gone, you got no one left but your family.
Yeah.
Your drug friends couldn't care less about you. They're hanging around you for one reason: 6 tokes and an 8-hour high. That's all they want. 6 tokes and an 8-hour high. They don't care for your well-being. They don't. The only true ones that care for you are the ones that you are really hurting. And that's your family, your loved ones. The email I got from my sister, because I was locked up in federal prison, I got into a little bit of a scuffle, so they took away my phone privileges, and I got an email that said, Jesse, Dad died. I mean, whoa, wait a minute. This is the man I thought was Superman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is the man that... And for me not to be there for him, I chose not to carry that weight. I chose to take that weight and make something of it. Because God saw that obviously the guardian angel that I had wasn't doing his job. So he took my father to watch over me. You always got to find the positive out of the negative.
Yep.
So prior to getting released, I told my sisters, I said, I need a vehicle. Can you take some of the money I got, purchase me a vehicle? I'm lining a job up for myself when I get out, so I have a job. Can you give X amount of money to my daughter? Because I got my daughter back in my life at that time when my dad passed away. So when I got out, I made it strictly about taking care of my mom, enjoying my mother, and I was single for 4 years. When I got out of jail, most people want to jump into a relationship because they want to get it off. I couldn't. I did not want my feelings and my emotions to be conflicted by physical desires. I needed to make sure that the head that I had on was still straight and headed on that right path.
Amen.
So I took that year to continue to rediscover who I am and officially lay the groundwork for where I'm going to be. Then God provided me with a blessing. He gave me someone who I did not want. It was serendipitous. It was a happenstance of a meet, and now we're engaged to be married. You know, it's been an amazing journey thus far, but I want other addicts to know that it coming from me, man. I'm going to tell you real coming from me, you can do this. There ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You can do it. Stop making excuses for yourself. Own up to your mistakes. Quit deflecting it. Take off the mask and put on your true face. And you can make it to where you want to be. People will love the real you, but they only pretend to like what you are.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep it as real as that. Take off the mask. Stop. My counselor once told me, quit slowly but surely, everything will metastasize, if I'm saying that word the right way. And she said, Jesse, you are wearing too many masks. You lost sight of who you are. You think glorifying the streets, glorifying the drug world is something that's going to make you somebody? While you're trying to portray an image of being somebody, you're hurting everybody.
Yep.
You're hurting those that have put food in your stomach, a roof over your head, those that say the words, I love you so dearly because of your own selfish deeds. And I'm just keeping it raw and I'm keeping it real.
Yep.
Us addicts, myself, I had to own up to my BS. I had to tell myself, you know what, stop making excuses for anyone. If you're ever to have a chance at life, you got to do what you got to do, and that's do me.
Yep.
Jess, I thank you so much for sharing your story. You know, your dad's probably watching you from heaven right now. What do you think he's thinking or saying?
He's shaking his head.
He's getting mad at me too.
He's shaking
Smoking
his head.
his cigarette in his boy.
And but he's also happy. My dad is he's happy because my family have reclaimed the son that they so dearly loved.
And that's important. Reconnecting, you know. They never given up. You know, I mean, we come from a very tight-knit
Yes.
family. Our family, we are considered pillars
Yeah.
where we're from. And it's really, you know, it's like I said, the culture that we grew up in, we were exposed to this. And understanding where the direction of this island is going, just to addiction. I mean, if we all can grasp what addiction is doing to not just to the person, but to the family, and then extend it out to the relatives and the island. You know, that one person who's suffering to addiction, there's hope. And it may sound cliche and everything, but there is hope. And you know, this is I guess it's connection to faith and everything, and understanding that we both have a mission now. You know, when he said God's not done with him, I took that to heart, and I was like, hey, amen, my brother. You know, a wise officer once told me that the Lord chooses his best warriors to fight his most evilest battles. And that battle starts within. If you can conquer those demons that you have, you will be that warrior that God has chosen to help fight this battle. And, you know, understanding where we come now, where we have taken the path now. I took a path to make a difference in this community. And I'm using my life experience as a platform. I'm using family. I'm using the structure that we have as family as that platform and that movement and that vehicle to move forward with the mission that God has chosen. And I know I'm not supposed to be talking about religion with the uniform, but hey, you know, so be it. It is what it is.
Well, thank you so much, Paul and Jess, for sharing your story. Just, I guess I'll let you have the final word.
Okay, to my fellow brothers and sisters in active addiction and struggling with recovery, you've been lost in the darkness for so long. Let me be that light that will help you find your way. If you need somebody to talk to, hit me up on Messenger. I will never turn away a soul nobody has given up on you, especially me.
Amen.
I will forever lend an ear, point you in the right direction, and offer a hand out. Because I was once there living on the streets. I know how it feels to live and sleep in your car, live under a bridge, for that fact. I know how it feels to come from nothing, reclaim everything, and then lose everything again, only to reclaim it back for the final time. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take hard work. It's going to take perseverance. It's going to take dedication on your part. But most of all, it's going to take the desire to want to change one thing, and that one thing is everything. If you want to change one thing in your life, change everything. And that's what I have to say to my fellow brothers and sisters in active addiction and recovery.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marcelo. Thanks, Mike.
This has been Crime Time. I'm Sabrina Salas.